Don't miss the Pennsylvania Lottery drawing tonight at 7.
The senator from the big bank state who is taking on big banks. Inside story right now. Good morning, I'm Matt O'Donnell. It is Sunday, June 6, 2010. Thanks for joining us in Inside Story, and allow me to introduce our newsmaker of the week. He is Senator Ted Kaufman from the state of Delaware, the Democrat. Good morning. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Little background on you, Senator. Sure. You were appointed by Governor Ruth Ann Minner to serve 2 years of now Vice President Joe Biden's term. You are not running in the November election in Delaware. It takes place later this year. And you're really a study in contrasts. You're not running for re-election or election. Yet you're a very busy senator. You come from a pro-business state, Delaware, and yet you're going after the big banks.
Right.
What gives?
Well, no, I consider myself pro-business. I mean, I did go to business school down here to work and got a master's in business, so I believe in business. But I think what's really important is that we not do a reprise on what happened last year when we practically destroyed not just the U.S. financial market, but the entire financial market. And I think one of our big problems is we've allowed our banks to get too big. And right now, 15 years ago, the 6 largest banks in America had 15%, 17% of the assets. Right now, the big banks have 63% of the assets as a percentage of gross domestic product. They're just way too big, and they're involved in very, very risky things. So it's one of those things. Look, I'm from Delaware, and there's a lot of people in Delaware who work for the banks, but there are also people that are hurting because of this economy, and we have to avoid ever having this happen again. So that's what I'm concerned about.
We're going to talk a bit more about Wall Street in a moment, but I want to talk about the oil spill because that's such a huge story going on right now. This is what some people are saying, obviously, in the opposition. Obama, oil spill, Bush, Katrina.
Yeah.
Fair?
No, not even close. I mean, first off, the oil spill, if you want to go back and look at the oil spill, basically we had in this country, and as long as we raised Bush, well, let's raise it, we had a position in this country that we shouldn't have regulation. We shouldn't regulate anything. It's one of the things why we had the great meltdown. We weren't regulating Wall Street. The Securities Exchange Commission wasn't regulating Wall Street. We weren't passing bills. We removed Glass-Steagall. They said government should stay out of this. And this was throughout the government. And the same thing happened with regard to offshore drilling. And we didn't have the regulators. And we found out now that a lot of the regulators we had consider themselves part of the oil industry. And this was true all over the government. People were put in place to do that. So basically what you have is we basically believe BP said this is going to happen. This will never happen. This can never happen. And we took their word for it, just like we took the word of the people that were doing the derivatives on Wall Street. This will never happen, and we didn't go in and look at it. The Securities Exchange Commission didn't look at it, and the people overseeing the drilling didn't look at it. So that what we needed was that. Now we have no capability. Now we have no capability. The federal government has no capability to deal with this in terms of solving it. We've left it to BP. And so we're like,
should the federal government somehow try and step in even more so?
But we don't have the expertise. We should be involved. And the president's down there, and he's done it. He's had Janet Napolitano, the head of the Homeland Security, from the very beginning down there. He's had Salazar as head of the Interior. They've all been down there, and they're doing everything they can. But in terms of solving the problem, the thing you see every night with the hose springing around, there is no capability in the federal government to do that, and that is the result of the federal government deciding, most of it under the Bush years, some of it goes back to the Clinton years, that we just don't need to do this stuff. Just get out of the way. It's the same thing you see if you had a football game. You said in the football game, the referees keep blowing their whistles and slowing down the game. Let's get the referees off and just let the football players play. And the same thing happens. I would not like to be in a huddle, in a pileup, after where there are no referees on the field.
Some models have this oil getting into the loop current. Worst nightmare. Delaware's great beaches, Rehoboth, Bethany.
Right. No, it'd be awful. That's why when the president proposed back in March to go ahead with this offshore drilling, I was opposed to it. And I was opposed to it on 2 levels. One is because if there was an oil spill, and I said that when I put out my statement, and we wrote a letter to the president, a number of middle state senators wrote to the president and said, we just don't believe in that. First, because we have these beaches, and the economic repercussions to us of a spill are outrageous. And second, as a national senator, I know that we've got to get off this oil fixation. Drilling's not going to solve it. We've got to get into alternative energy. We cannot kind of drill our way out of this thing, and then we have this incredible potential economic disaster that could hit us if, in fact, we had a spill.
Back to Wall Street.
Sure.
The stock market crash and the economic meltdown of 2008. The stock market dip of 1,000 points back on May 6th of this year. Something fishy going on? You're a person that knows a lot about these things. Something fishy going on here?
No, there is. First off, as I said, after the 1929 crash, remember during the whole 19th century we had one bank panic after another. 1929 we have the Great Crash, Great Depression. And we came in 1933, we put in a thing called Glass-Steagall, which says you can't be a bank. If you want to be a bank, but you can't get into all this risky stuff like investment banking. 60 years we went out without a major bank failure. We had bank problems, no major bank failure.
You need more regulations.
And then we did away with this Glass-Steagall Act in 1999, and we pulled the regulators off the field. We said to the Securities Exchange Commission, don't worry, Bernie Madoff. Before you could bring a case or even look into a case, you had to get all 5 commissioners to sign off it. Their basic approach was Bernie Madoff's a client of ours, just like BP's our client, and just like in the mining division, the mining people are our clients. So basically, that's what happened. Now, another thing that's happened in terms of what's coming up in terms of May 6th is what has developed over the last 6 or 8 years is a thing called high-frequency trading. We use computers to trade. And they've gone from 30% of the trades on our markets being these high-frequency trading to now 70%. And we have no idea what's happening in these trades. They don't have to report who their customer is, and they don't have to report the time of the trade. I don't think we're ever going to find out what happened on May 6th because we're not gathering the data to find out what is actually going on. This is a multi-billion-dollar business. When you see the returns, read quarterly reports from like Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley, $3 billion, $4 billion, they say trading. That's what they're doing now. They're trading.
We have less than 30 seconds.
Sure.
Mike Castle is a Republican candidate for the Senate seat you now hold, and it's looking like he may be the front runner. Any regrets by saying early on, I'm not going to run?
No, I don't have any regrets. First off, these last 2 years have been exciting and interesting and fascinating for me. If I had decided to run for the Senate, I would have spent 65% of my time organizing my campaign. Plus, I've done a lot of things. 2 years is wonderful. It's great being a senator. But I got 7 grandchildren. I got a lot of other interests. I teach. I do a lot of different things. It's going to be great to go back to those too.
Senator Ted Kaufman, Democrat from Delaware. Thanks for joining us in Inside Story.
Thanks for having me.
Take care. We'll be right back with our panel. Stay with us.